Zoidbird's been working out. This week, we opened with Natsu's recap that highlighted them getting the Marine Ring, whilst kind of glossing over the Queenie's war crimes. Yeah, here's seriously hoping that they don't forget about that little plotline later. Anyway, the episode proper opened with Asuka recollecting her father, oh yeah, he was a character in the show, asking why she hadn't turned in her top picks for a high school in spite of the fact that she already had a top prospect. So are you gonna go practice law, or maybe children's card games? Yeah, that'll make more sense in just a bit. And while her current grades were unlikely to get her in, she could still get in through on a sports endorsement, but of course she had quit tennis. On a side note, she is flashing back to all of this whilst practicing alone, so yeah, she wasn't fooling anyone, especially Yuriko. Speaking of whom, she was resigning from her position as student council president to focus on her studies. Seeing their president get a big send-off, our heroines decided to look up ways they could do the same for Asuka by going to their local library, which, yeah, is one of the last places I'd take Manatsu to. However, they didn't even look at any books before they were distracted by some girls from Phoenix High. Specifically, Sango noticed their cute uniforms, which I really hope is some sort of hint for her episode next week because this girl is in dire need of development. But yeah, rather sporadically, they just kind of decided to change course and go to Phoenix High to figure out the difference between middle and high school, and to get this plot, or rather, ball rolling. Anyway, they went to the high school and would you look at that art style change. Yeah, it's worth mentioning that this episode had 2 animation directors, as well as a bunch of key animators, but we'll get more into that in just a bit, as Yuriko was also there trying out for an endorsement. Of course, she knew Asuka could qualify too, and in fact was willing to challenge her to a game to exhibit their capabilities to the coach. Asuka, of course, tried to back down at first, but really, it doesn't take a lot of eggs to rope this girl in. Let's have a tennis game, which could also turn into a duel involving a character named Asuka. So yeah, if this looks like something out of Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, that's only because it pretty much is. The co-animation directors this week were Kenichi Hara and Nobel Gold, 2 of the more prominent animators for the card games on certain motorized vehicles franchise, which I find interesting as this is going to be their first Precure episode ever, as well as maybe even their first toy project ever, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Until recently was a Studio Gallop production. Not to say Gallop and Toy haven't shared a lot of staff over the years, and even Yu-Gi-Oh! As of course Toy produced the infamous Season 0, and they did collab back in 2019 to produce an anime called Makutsuri Bar Hunter. Also while editing, I realized that the studio has been doing some minor editing and animation for the latest Digimon series, though I do wonder if the reason why Hara and No are working at Toy now is because they're looking for a new studio to call home. As I said, Gallop isn't producing Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, and from what I've heard about the production troubles behind Brains, yeah, I'm not sure if they'll ever produce anything ever again. Please hold in there, Gallop. But yeah, with that, do expect to see more extra pointy chins and ears in this one, though unfortunately no meme faces yet. Meanwhile, at the Lair of the Witch, the lady again wasn't eating her food, much to her chef's dismay. Oh yeah, that was also a plot point that I really wish they had followed up on more. But yeah, just like all the way back in episode 10, Chonge was convinced by Butler to get some motivation energy by using a living creature as a vessel this time, which for him meant using one of his own kind, and judging by the preview next week, it seems like all the generals are going to turn their own kind into Yaneda. Though personally, I'm still waiting on them to use it on an actual person, if only to raise the stakes a little more, after the whole memory wiping thing. Anyway, I guess the next day, because everyone had changed their clothes, Yuriko and Asuka's game had commenced. At first, it seemed like it was gonna be a total wash in favor of the rival, with them not even really needing to animate anything, but fortunately, this was a best out of 5 game. And after Asuka said one of the most shonen of shonen lines, I think the Yu-Gi-Oh! Animators took over, specifically Nobel Go. All the while, the 2 trash-talk each other with some old stories, but also in the process revealed that they really were still thinking about each other. Well, this clip feels more appropriate than ever.
Just already!
I mean, let's face it, both franchises are pretty much the harbingers of the gay ships. But yeah, at this point, they really should have been able to bury the hatchet, as they could recognize that their original falling out was just beyond their control. Hell, considering that Tennis Club probably disbanded a while ago, and that they were going to a brand new school, they could just restart their pairing, which yeah, you can interpret as the sport and the ship. And yet, because of their opposite, yet also identical beliefs, these two tsundere couldn't be freaking honest with each other, as they feared truly losing the other. You know, it's at times like this that I realize this season has really been held up by writers like Isamu Murayama, and I hope that he gets carried over into the next season. Yes, I've heard about the next show called Delicious Party, which, I'll be honest, I don't know why everyone's getting on the hype train already, especially since we've only gotten a teaser side that doesn't really show much of anything, even a catchphrase for the lead character or something like that. I mean, you can get excited if you want, but just remember, the thing that can make or break a season isn't just aesthetics, but often more importantly, the writers. I'll say right now, while I definitely wouldn't call Tropical-Rouge bad by any means, I do think it also has been held up by three main writers. Obviously, that includes Isamu Murayama, as I just said, as well as head writer Masahiro Yokotani and Hiroyuki Yoshino, who's also going to be writing next week's episode, which I'm really looking forward to. These three, in my opinion, have been the pillars who've held up this season the most. And as always, we will do a staff analysis when information becomes available, but I just wanted to say we should also temper our expectations is all. By the way, I think this beautiful sequence was done by Yu Yoshiyama, the same animator behind Asuka's finisher. Their style actually works really well with Hara's, to the point I'd have a hard time distinguishing between the two. Thus, it kind of makes sense that they both end up animating for card game anime. Anyway, yeah, I guess it was time for the battle this week. The rest of our heroines went ahead to let Asuka finish her game, which also gave Yuriko a chance to reveal that she was a little smarter than most civilians in this franchise.
How did you know it was me?
Kid, you don't think I would recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones?
And she wanted the game to continue, as she revealed that she actually wanted Asuka to get her sports endorsement because, again, these girls are too freaking tsundere. However, above all else, Asuka was a superheroine who needed to do what was most important to her. Thus, they engaged the swole crustaceans. Also, judging by the finger pointing, I think this was animated by Kenichi Hara, so may as well throw this in.
Mirror Force, reflect his attack!
Sadly, we only got a small sampling from the Yu-Gi-Oh animator, but at least we also got to see Asuka use her finisher one last time, and very thematically no less. Afterwards, it was revealed that, yeah, since she ditched the game, they didn't give Asuka a sports endorsement, but she was willing to study a little harder to get into her school of choice. With that, the episode ended with Asuka not telling Yuriko where she was going after graduation, though the answer was pretty damn obvious. So yeah, that was a good conclusion to Asuka's character arc that provided us with, I think, a pretty satisfying resolution. Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting conclusion ever, mostly due to that tennis game that was just kind of okay. But I also wouldn't call it the climax either, that was more the train episode, so this one did exactly what it needed to do, with some good writing and some really good animation. And with the new season on the horizon, I think it's good that they're starting to mix the old writers with the new animators. For the tennis match, I wasn't expecting any Prince or even Death Note level of animation, and I will say it was at least better than the one in Zenkaiger. Yeah, I totally believe y'all can play a game in a rocky quarry. But yeah, the point is, the game wasn't all that important compared to the resolution to Yuriko and Asuka's rivalry of trying to make amends with each other. And I do really like how ultimately it was a combination of their regrets and stubbornness that was keeping them from making amends. It was clear that while they acted hostile, they also didn't want to completely cut ties with the other. With both acknowledging that they just wanted to protect the other, they're now finally on the road to recovery. It was a really good arc for this character, even if the episode surrounding it was a little messily paced. Some of this, like them just sporadically going to Phoenix High, could have been avoided if they had established the location in a previous episode, but really, that's more of a problem of this season's lack of build-up and usage of its plot points. As a result, we did get another short fight, which is a shame because I want to see more of what Kenichi Hara can bring to this franchise, but it also wasn't a bad sampling, and his style matches so well with the usual staff that I'm kinda surprised it's taking this long for Studio Gallop animators to start working on this franchise. Kinda makes me want to see others come in if they're not doing anything else. So overall, minor pacing issues aside, this was a really good resolution for Asuka, and a good first outing for Animators, more known for their shining good role. On that note, can we get Vector as villain next season, please and thank you? By the way, you might not have noticed it, but remember those cooking videos we did for Kira Kira back when we were reviewing that series? Well, they got taken down due to copyright strikes. And yes, it was the same toy imposters who almost got this channel shut down earlier this year. Fortunately, they did a half-assed job and only got us 2 strikes, meaning that we could still remain active, and by the time this video goes up, the videos should return and the strikes will be lifted. But I swear, it's like clockwork with these idiots. Though that said, it did get me thinking that maybe I should be making more cooking videos, especially considering what's on the horizon. Yeah, again, still can't say much about the series just yet, but if they do include more than just sweets, then I'm all in to cook a few dishes. That's one thing I'm going to do for this main channel, but after watching this episode, I'm thinking of working on that secondary channel that's going to be a little bit more card game based, which, yeah, you know what? Farewell for now, my friends, as I've got some prep to do.